Good morning. Like Justin said, my name is Zenk. I'm with the South Dakota Soil Health Coalition. I'm not sure how many of you in the room have ever heard of us. We're a fairly new organization. We just started in 2015. Anyone watched the news last night? It was Red Nose Day yesterday in Sioux Falls, and what that is, they were also started in 2015, and they said they are originated to help protect children. This is kind of why Soil Health Coalition was originated, was to help farmers learn from other farmers about the soil and how to keep your operation sustainable and move forward into the future. So the Soil Health Coalition, like I said, was started in 2015. We have right now 9 board members. We had a change. We had originally 7, and they thought they needed to increase the diversity of the location of the board members, but also of their operations. So I have 9 directors that I work with on a day-to-day basis. They're spread throughout the state. How many of them have you ever heard of the Soil Health Coalition in the room? There's a few that have heard. Okay, great. So yeah, my directors that I work with on a day-to-day operation have a great passion about soil health and how it can help move agriculture into the future and to help you on your operations. It's not a compensated or anything. It's just a voluntary. They saw the need for this. They came together in 2015 and they started the Soil Health Coalition. With the directors, I do have some staff, and they are spread throughout the state as well, covering the different locations. So we are here to help you. If you have questions, you can contact us about your operations. If you have, just a question, we are able to come to your farms and help answer those. All right. So today, Justin had asked if I would talk a little bit about soil health benefits and covering your soil. When we talk, there are a few handouts. There's an excellent crowd today. I wasn't sure how many people would be here, but I do have just a brochure, and in here it talks a little bit about the Soil Health Coalition, the 5 principles of soil health, which we will go through. But one of them is covering your soil and why it's so important to keep your soil covered. And this kind of explains, or am I in your way? Can everyone see? All right. Not sure quite where to stand. So you can see that's where the Soil Health Coalition has derived. So, all right, I'm going to talk a little bit about organic matter and the importance of organic matter and what it does for you on your farm, and how economics, Brian touched on economics, organic matter has also a definite economic value to you and to your operation. So this is just a native setting. Generally, the native settings in South Dakota were about 8% organic matter. Some were higher, some were lower, but that's just what it was. So from there, being able to produce crops, we have changed that setting. So with that, we want to make sure what we're doing is benefiting agriculture and how it will help you on your operations. So our organic matter generally has decreased. I don't know if some of you know what your organic matter is on your operations, but it is important to know. And right now, whether this picture is a dry field, we're experiencing just the opposite, a really wet field, and it's the same thing. We aren't generally going to change unless we're forced to change for some type of a reason. Some of you may have never ever tried a cover crop, and maybe this will be the year that you do because of the weather and the different situations that have been brought before you. So we need to take those into account and figure out what is best for your operation and how to make money. I mean, that's what you're in the business for. So, all right, and this is just a percentage in organic matter and how it has evolved in a lot of situations. The no-tilled fields have increased their organic matter just because of the ability to leave it on the surface and not continually till that ground. So organic matter, like I said, had some economics. Brian touched on economics. The value from Ohio State, this fact sheet that they had, 1% organic matter, if you would increase your operation, something that you can use for when you're talking with your land owners too, would increase your value of that acre. So Dan Forgey is one of my directors, so him and I kind of did some studies just for South Dakota. So this is what we think using today's fertilizer numbers and some of that. So just gives you, I don't know, something to think about, how valuable your ground is and how you can make decisions on that and to keep that increasing and find ways of doing that. Another thing that organic matter also aids you in is water holding capacity. So I know people have heard with the aggregate stability and how that works. It is very, I put it on here so I could say it correctly because I'm not a scientist. I'm not, but it is 1% organic matter would be about 8,202.6 per acre. So if you take that, assuming you can go back and you can figure how many gallons it would actually hold if you increase your organic matter on your field.
How many gallons are we holding right now?
Oof. Each area, your area, you were holding a lot. Yep. So you really want to make that point. So it's time to change the way we think. Before it was always think about prevention and different things or tolerance. Now we want to move away from that and just think different about it. Maybe move beyond sustainable. I don't want you just to be sustainable. I want you to be profitable. We want to move on. So we can't solve problems with the same thinking that got us into this problem. So we want to move forward and hopefully create a situation where we can make our operations very successful. So the one way to do that is to think about your soil. Most people think you grow plants. Actually, you grow soil, your soil grows the plants. So if you think about it that way, then you can see why the importance of your soil is so detrimental, if it is eroding. So we want to make sure that people understand you're not growing corn or soybeans, you're growing soil. The soil is growing your corn, soybeans, or your cover crops. So we need to make sure our soil is healthy, and one way to do that, you have to keep it in your mind that it is alive. There are living organisms in your soil. I think in the flyer it'll show you how many living organisms are in a teaspoon of soil. So if you think about the living organisms in there, what do we have to do to help them? Okay, I dug up some soil, and you can kind of see some of the different living organisms, some of the fungi on there, and you can see it. Generally, you can't see all of the biology because it is so microscopic. What we did is actually, I think it's the next slide. The biology is so important. I have one more slide, and then I'll show a quick little video. I do have a display out in the other room. Has anyone ever seen the tidy-whitey display and what it's supposed to show? I have a lot of looks when people come to my office or where I have a lot of underwear by my desk, and I do hand them out so people can try it. It does work, and it's pretty eye-opening for you to think about how you can put something in the ground and it disappears. So these were in the ground for 3 weeks. They were done at our soil health school. We had it just the opposite 2 years ago when it was really dry in the north central part of the state. He was really worried he wasn't going to show anything. He was so worried because he hadn't had rain, and it was really worrisome for him because he was like, I don't want it not to work. But when we dug them up, they were only in the ground for 3 weeks, and that's how much of them was left. I do have the mix. I don't recall all the different kinds, but I do have the mix out on the display in the other room. So the biology is such an important thing. You need to remember that the soil is alive. Okay, so what we did is we took some soil, put it in a funnel. There's a thing called a Burlese funnel. You can Google it online if you ever want to try it, but it's all the Burlese funnel. So we put the soil in this funnel, put a lamp on it, warmed it up, and then, let's see if this will work. these drop through the funnel into a little tray so we could video them. So I have a microscope that'll clip onto my phone. So these organisms is what's helped you grow your plants. So we want to make sure they are fed. But kind of creepy, isn't it? That's really in the soil. You don't think about when you're walking in it. You know when you go swimming in a lake, there's things swimming in the lake with you, but when you're walking along or digging in the soil, you don't necessarily think there's something living in that soil. So it's to me, it's very eye-opening. It helps me to show people that how important it is for you to take care of your soil, feed your soil, so you can feed the microorganisms. Okay, I talked a little bit about the 5 principles of soil health, and they are in the flyers of you that have them. The first one is always soil cover. Keep the plant residue on the soil surface as much as possible. And if you look down and you see what percentage of the soil is covered, erosion needs to be minimized before you can start building soil health. Those are just one of the first steps. So we're going to talk a little more about that and how I know a lot of the questions or comments I get back is, well, I got to get that residue off so I can get the ground planted. And part of that is the organisms will help you be on the soil. So they're going to be your tillers for you. They're going to take that down. They're going to create more soil in order for you to have that organic matter into your soil and be able to grow your crops. So it's just kind of a fun way. You don't think about it, obviously it's sped up and to show you, but they are there to help you help your soil. So wish it was that fast though. All right. Next one is limited discernment. Minimize tillage as much as possible. You'll start rebuilding your soil, your aggregates, your pore space, the soil biology. Once you do your tillage, you are wrecking their home. I mean, what is living in there is being disturbed, and it takes them a while for them to build back up. So, okay, the next one is living roots, and that's such an important one. Brian had talked about an option of prevent plant, and you can leave it black. That is harder on your soil than most people realize. There was a producer that I visited with in the central part of the state who last year ended up being real wet and couldn't get his crop in. So he didn't plant, left it black, and he was planning to plant winter wheat. But then it was dry, so then he didn't plant his winter wheat. So then it stayed black for a whole year, and now he hasn't been able to get in because there hasn't been anything growing in there. Those root systems aren't there, so it isn't helping his soil to be able for you to get into the ground. So cover crops add carbon to the soil, a great food source for the microorganisms, but if you've never tried them, you may want to start small scale, and this comment generally is when you're just thinking of doing them after a crop. With this year, the full seasons are a great option for you with Prevent Plant. Okay, so this video is actually roots, leaking the exudates. How many have ever heard of the roots and how important the exudates are for you? A lot of people, I try to make them think about it like your digestive system. When you eat, your gastric juices in your stomach, so when you eat that food, that's what those gastric juices are doing, is they're breaking up that food. Well, these exudates from these roots, they're shooting off. These exudates are kind of the same thing. They're there to help your plant to be able to grow. So it's I don't think about when I grow a plant that there's something coming off of that root into your soil, but it is very, very obvious, and it really does happen. So you want to think about how that plays into it. So keeping that living root, if you do have to go Prevent Plant on some options, consider that getting something growing in there is a better option than to leaving it black for a number of reasons for you down the road, keeping that soil able to be planted in the future. So diversity, whether we're talking cover crops or in your crop rotations, diversity is always a benefit for you and your soil. We want to try to mimic nature as much as possible, planting in different species. A lot of people do corn soybeans because they're different species. If you add in another one, or if you do a cover crop, it's the same thing. You want to keep that soil food web active. You want to feed it as much as possible. And the fifth one is integrating livestock. A lot of people think isn't possible for them to plant cover crops because they don't have any cattle. And that is a concern, and the Soil Health Coalition directors saw that as a concern. So what they did is they developed a Grazing Exchange website. So this is live. It is on the web now. It's called sdgrazingexchange.com. And what it does is all brings people together. So if you decide to plant cover crops in a prevent plant situation, you would be able to graze them after November 1st, like Brian had said. And that provides another opportunity for you to gain some income off of your ground. So the coalition doesn't connect people, you connect with your producer. So these little dots, these little different things show, I can go on there, I can list my cattle and say I have 50 head of cattle and I'm looking for a place to put them, and it'll ask you a number of different questions. Yeah.
So after November 1st, if we have extra cover crop ground, is it legal for us to lease it to somebody to graze cattle?
You can graze it, so yes.
But you couldn't make crop.
But the income part would be
You could
That-
graze it, I don't think you could pay.
Yeah.
No, I mean.
Yeah, I think you can, but yes. Yeah, and it's a benefit for the ground with the cattle. I mean, they're eating, they're pooping and peeing, and that helps keep that active soil biology. So this, all it does, you fill it in. There is a video that will be on there. If you have any questions, please call me. But you create an account. If you have cattle, you can put that on. There's kind of a matchmaking service is what my board always tell me. I'm kind of in the matchmaking business. So I'm going to bring crop producers and livestock producers, and it'll say whether you need to put up a fence, whether there's a fence there. You answer all those questions. If someone sees your operation or checks that, then they will go there. They would contact you, not me. So you guys would be paired together. If you go on there and you need a spot, and this opportunity is great for the grasslands. Soil health is very evident in grasslands as well as in cropland. So we want to give some of those pastures a rest too. So if we can get them off into the cover crops, or if someone does get corn in, some of the aftermath grazing is able to be put on here also. The last thing. So I do want to talk about the Soil Health Coalition a little bit more. We do have what we call a soil health school where we go more in depth. I do have some flyers and I'll have them out there. It's September 4th through the 6th, and for some it's a hard time if they do silage, but it is an opportunity if you can go. It's an excellent opportunity for you to learn from producers. That's why the coalition was created. The directors are there. Other producers have the same questions as you, and you can learn from them. We do grazing exercises. We learn about the biology in the soil. We talk about the economics of soil health and why it benefits them. So Soil Health School is September 4th through the 6th. And then just one more slide. I do have a little video, and what the coalition tried to do is try to encompass. Soil health is very broad. It's through the operations. It can be even in gardening. People, how many of you have a garden? That also encompasses soil health. Consumers are driving what we do on our operations. So we wanted something that I could show at any type of event, whether I was talking with producers at Millborn or Master Gardeners or or C&D operations or any of the implement dealers. So I'm going to show that quick video.
Soil health, isn't just one thing. It's like a systems approach. I mean, for us, it's combining no-till, crop rotation, cover crops, and then planting like native grass species in our sensitive areas, in our wetlands, and our salinity areas, and along our watersheds, to try to make our land not only profitable, but sustainable for the future.
It's a way to pull carbon out of the air and put it in the ground. And carbon and organic matter are basically the same thing, so if I can pull carbon out of the air and put it in the ground, I'm making the soil healthier.
We're not seeing the salt issues as bad. We're also not seeing the mud when we go into plant. If you take care of the soil, it'll take care of you.
How do we manage not only the native prairie soils, but how do we manage the crop ground to get our soil structure back to where it should be? That's the real challenge that we have. I think the first step is to understand and gain an understanding of what we're dealing with in the native prairie soils.
Building a resilient soil, if it's wet, if it's dry, if it's cold, if it's hot, I want a soil that protects me in those situations or is able to handle those situations without costing me a crop. There's so many living things there, and when you go out there and dig with the living cover, it just looks alive.
You're going to save money on the fuel, you're going to save money with the fertilizer because that's staying where you put it. Long run, you're gaining yield because you're increasing the value of the land.
It also helped our workload issues. It allowed a better quality of life for me and my family, and as it turns out, it's a better quality of life for the soil. It's better for the cows as well.
Diversity always improves the biological health, and actually cattle prefer diversity rather than monocultures.
We've made a real push to involve our landowners on the land that we rent and lease to get involved and to understand what we're doing.
We have a pretty good crop rotation that we're happy with. We're trying to have the soil covered pretty much all the time, feeding the soil, so pulling carbon dioxide out of the air through photosynthesis and feeding soil microbiology, increasing our soil organic matter.
It is accepting the responsibility to continue to spread the word and to share the things that you've learned over the years, share the knowledge, the successes, the failures of what it's all about. It's about leaving it better than you found it.
Long term, my kids talk about farming. They love being out here, and that's up to each one of them if they want to do this or not. I hope one or two of them decide to come back and run the farm.
So I want to thank you for allowing me to be here, Justin, and I want to thank you for the crowd for letting me come in and give you a little different perspective from what you're dealing with on a day-to-day basis. But if you have any questions, this is my contact information. You can go to our website or you can call me. I do have it on in our handouts and things too, but thank you very much.